Welcome to a Legendarium special about the life of Michelangelo. In part 1, we will talk about the education and early life of the great Renaissance artist. Michelangelo came into the world on March 6, 1475 in the small village of Caprice, Italy, the second of 5 sons. When Michelangelo was born, his father, Leonardo de Buonarrota, served as a magistrate in Caprice. However, the family moved to Florence during Michelangelo's childhood, and his father became involved in banking. Soon after, Michelangelo's mother, Francesca Neri, grew ill, so Michelangelo lived for a time with a family of stonecutters. Later, Michelangelo joked, "With my wet nurse's milk, I sucked in the hammer and chisels I use for my statues." As he grew older, Michelangelo proved uninterested in his studies and more interested in watching painters at nearby churches and then drawing what he saw them do. His grammar school friend Francesco Granacci introduced Michelangelo to the painter Domenico Ghirlandaio. Upon realizing that his son had no interest in the family business, Michelangelo's father apprenticed him to the Ghirlandaio workshop. There, Michelangelo learned fresco painting, which is the placing of pigment on wet lime plaster. His steady hand with a chisel and paintbrush soon made him the envy of his fellow students. One young rival named Pietro Torrigiano grew so enraged at Michelangelo's superior talent, and perhaps also his sharp tongue, that he punched Michelangelo in the nose. This assault left Michelangelo's nose permanently smashed and disfigured. From 1489 to 1492, Michelangelo studied classical sculpture in the palace gardens of Florentine ruler Lorenzo the Magnificent, head of the powerful Medici family. Michelangelo began rubbing shoulders with the Florentine ruling class and met revered poets and scholars. The church even gave him special permission to study cadavers for anatomy, though exposure to the dead later harmed Michelangelo's health. Yet these influences shaped Michelangelo's muscular and beautiful style. By the age of 16, he sculpted the Battle of the Centaurs and Madonna seated on a step. Unfortunately, when death retired Lorenzo the Magnificent from politics, the city of Florence fell into civil war. Michelangelo fled to Bologna, where he lived and studied until 1495, when Florence became safe once more. Next, Michelangelo carved his famed Cupid sculpture. To make the statue look older, Michelangelo buried it for a time and then claimed he discovered an old Roman piece. This trick worked on Cardinal Riario de San Giorgio, who later realized that Michelangelo duped him. Yet Michelangelo's skill so impressed the cardinal that he invited the sculptor to Rome in 1498. That year, Cardinal Jean Bilher, a representative of the French king, commissioned the Pietà. This sculpture depicted Mary holding the dead Christ across her lap. Michelangelo, just 25 years old at the time, finished his work in less than 1 year and placed the statue in the church of the cardinal's tomb. At 6 feet wide and nearly as tall, the statue has been moved 5 times since. Its present place is St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City. Carved from a single piece of Carrara marble, the fluidity of the fabric, positions of the subjects, and even the skin inspired its viewers. When Michelangelo overheard pilgrims claim that another sculptor made the Pietà, he carved his signature in the sash across Mary's chest. Between 1501 and 1504, Michelangelo took over a commission for a statue of David, which 2 prior sculptors had previously attempted and abandoned. Michelangelo made use of a block that other artists deemed unworkable. Known as the Giant, the massive 17-foot-tall slab had been quarried 40 years earlier for a series of sculptures, all abandoned. It had grown rough after years of exposure to the elements, yet Michelangelo turned it into a work of art. The strength of the statue's sinews, its heartfelt expression, and a depiction of courage made the David a great prize. Originally commissioned for the Cathedral of Florence, the Florentine government instead installed the statue in front of the Palazzo Vecchio. It now stands in Florence's Accademia Gallery. Beginning in 1505, Michelangelo served 9 consecutive popes, from Julius II to Pius IV. His work for the Vatican included everything from crafting ornamental knobs for the papal bed to spending 4 grueling years painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Ironically, Michelangelo received the Sistine Chapel ceiling commission from Julius II as a consolation prize after the Pope canceled one of his other projects. Originally, Michelangelo planned to paint the 12 apostles, but he wound up painting a total of 300 figures. During the project, the ever-temperamental Michelangelo fired his assistants, whom he judged inept. He then finished the 65-foot-high ceiling alone, spending endless hours on his back and jealously guarding his great work. At one point, he had to remove many panels when a fungus began spreading in the plaster. Finally, Michelangelo revealed the Sistine Chapel ceiling on October 31st, 1512. Its most famous image is the creation of Adam, portraying God reaching down to touch the finger of man. A rival Roman painter named Raphael completely changed his style after being inspired by the Sistine Chapel ceiling. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. And of course, check out part 2. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.